What many urban areas realize is that we have a scarcity of a lot of things. We have a scarcity of land. So in places that are over-urbanized, one has to deal properly with land. So we're undertaking a huge urban planning reform with some of the top Italian architects, Stefano Boeri and company, and to use some of their concept on how they utilized land in such a way that there was enough for residential areas, enough for recreational space, enough for pure natural reservation, and also enough for industrial space. And I think dealing with that urgent issue of sustainability has become a key issue. Resources are also scarce, and we're trying to get some innovation when it comes to using water and producing energy. The same water that goes into the city, into the taps, prior to hitting the tap, it hits the turbines of a hydropower station of the municipality. So we produce 100% sustainable energy from the very same water that we drink and use in our homes. And we're trying to get a bit more creative in that terrain, moving more towards hybrid and electric vehicles, and constantly discouraging the use of the private car. That means that the whole mindset of urban planning has significantly changed in the last year. The other thing is that we're trying to keep up pace of the demographic change with social institutions. It's okay to say that the city quadruples in 20 years, but did the schools also quadruple, nurseries, kindergartens? And I think our biggest dilemma now is to figure out whether we go at a snail pace at state funding for these institutions, or we become a bit more creative in financing and involve the private sector through some sort of a leasing or availability fee so that we match demographic growth with social institutions. I think there's two types of mayors. The ones that sort of realize the job after they've been elected, and then they find out it's a mess and there's never enough money, so they give up and complain. Or to sort of realize that such is life and one has to get creative and use maybe non-traditional means of innovation, of investment, and also of communication. I think it may cost a lot to retrofit a whole city, but I think to paint them in bright colors, to give people a sense of pride, to increase property value, out of which they can then do more investments in sustainable energy or retrofitting, that I think costs less money, is more creative, but pretty much gets the same result. The same thing, you can hire big communication firms and run your typical brainwashing or propaganda communication on why one thing is good and one thing is bad, and why biking is better than driving a car, or have a cost-free campaign involving children who will be a constant media presence in the car, telling their parent to get out because the mayor says it's car-free day, and get them a bike or a skateboard or scooter. I think children have a powerful energy to change cultures and mentality that otherwise adults don't have. I think many people make peace at the state of affairs, at the status quo, too easy, particularly adults. They say things have always been like this, and any change provokes a trauma. I think kids adapt so much quicker to change, and they impose good change and positive change on others. So in a lot of these operations, whether it's adopting nurseries and kindergartens and doing a total retrofitting sponsored by companies and not by the city taxpayer, or whether it's these days without cars, or whether it's playgrounds, our motto is play everywhere, because I think children understand better with play. But also adults are a bit like children. They understand better with pictures. None of us wants to read big things, we want to see things. So I think producing visible change that meets the eye, rather than just give lectures on change, has been the best way forward. It's initially embraced by kids, but then slowly by everyone else. It's important to not reinvent the wheel, and we see a lot of that going around, where we try to sell ice to the Eskimos. No. I think it's important to understand. Sometimes in many conferences you don't learn what to do, but you learn exactly what not to do. And I think learning from experiences is key. Despite the languages we speak or the GPS we live and operate in our cities, there's so many things in common when it comes to, I don't think there's a Western Mediterranean or Eastern Mediterranean way to collect trash or create pedestrian areas or do space making. I think there's a lot of common sense involved. And I think forums like this help you to avoid reinventing the wheel, but to see what has worked and maybe experiment in your own city. So I learned a few things today. Yeah.